Hello, class. I am Scott Haslerick, and I gotta apologize in advance for the lighting. The kids are all napping, and I had to come to the best area I could I could make it at to get away from the children. My name is Scott. My team member is Rostam, who we worked together to put this together for the entirety of the class in our final narrated presentation. And the company we have chosen was Boeing. So many of you, of course, you read about Boeing, you hear about Boeing, you see what's going on in Boeing's business, but me and Rostam wanted to kind of exacerbate some of what you hear in the news, some of the readings you might see, and we wanted to kind of take you through our strategic presentation of Boeing. First, we want to take you through the current state of the business. So where is Boeing right now? So as you can only imagine, the 737 MAX, which is the hot topic, and you have to be living under a rock not to know what's going on. It's in the newspapers. It's on the news. It's online. Everywhere you turn is conversations around the 737 MAX. And as it's interrupting commercials, travel lines, as you know, commercial schedules, and you can see, and it's probably affecting everyone in our class who's traveling for work or traveling personally, and maybe you just didn't know it, but it was affecting that airline that you were traveling on. As you can see there on the left, Boeing's 2019 loss is the worst in history. So you can only imagine a company the size of Boeing who does everything from commercial aircrafts, which we'll be focusing on, but they also have a big piece of military defense, and also they are in the spacecraft side. So they like to think of themselves as a aerospace company, not just a commercial airliner. But you can see on the left the loss they've taken in 2019. This is contributed solely to the 737 MAX, the issues, the grounding, and you can only imagine with what's going on with the coronavirus now and the pandemic, how this is affecting not only every business across the world, but how this is affecting Boeing specifically, and the travel restrictions that are being put on, and people just saying, hey, I don't want to travel at a time like this. The commercial airline industry is feeling that, therefore it's floating up to Boeing. So we wanted to kind of take you through a little bit of Boeing's state of the business, and then we want to kind of jump right into their external environment analyst. So you can think of, we really want to focus on one, but you can think of externally, politically, what's going on in FAA and the commercial airliners, but economically, you can always kind of point back to the pandemic that's going on, that's having effects in each and every kind of turn for businesses here in the US and also globally. You think of socially, of course, people are tweeting, hey, we don't like what's going on with my flight schedule here at Southwest. Or, and then you have people from a technology standpoint who, from the outside looking in, feel like they can make those changes to say, hey, Boeing, I can do a better job. Just give me a chance. I can identify that problem, environmental and legally. What we're going to jump into, that our focus point is around just the general environment. Well, the general environment around Boeing, like I said, you'd have to be under a rock just to understand that picture on the left is all those grounded 737 MAX planes in the Phoenix airport. And they are looking, they're calling it just a Boeing parking lot. Not only in Phoenix, but across the country do you see the fleet of Boeing planes that are just grounded from that 737 MAX, from American Airlines to Delta to United, all the way to Southwest. That is what's going on in the general environment. Also, the coronavirus pandemic, as you can see the chart on the right, you can see from just January the 15th of commercial flights and the number of commercial flights dropping off to what you could see that at April the 29th. I mean, it dropped by almost 80%. And you can see the red line going through when at March the 11th, who basically declared it was a global pandemic. That pandemic hit, travel stopped for business travels. I know personally myself, our company is not allowing travel to January the 1st of next year. And that's still, we're still kind of very optimistic, cautiously optimistic with that goal. And it could be that could be pushed as well. But you can see there the travel that went down just globally and personally from business and just everyday travel consumers. Next, you can only imagine how airlines, an article that was in the Fox News talking about airlines struggling with pandemic and just grounding fleets. So if you're at an airport, I would caution, I would ask you to challenge you to just look out in that field and you can see what you see on the left. And you will probably see maybe 10 to 20 to 30 grounded 737s MAX in this parking lot of this airport. Next, I wanted to take you through the 5 forces that me and Rostam looked at. Of course, potential entry. So someone coming into the market, not really likely. They have their competitors. Their competitors have really been their competitors for a long time now. You have some crossing over into different industries, small planes, commercial, military, aerospace, from space. So you have like a SpaceX popping in there. They're saying, hey, we're taking the space shuttle, but they're not saying we're building commercial flights. So you have that going on, but not a lot of entry. Suppliers. Their buying power with suppliers, Boeing, is very, very high. Because you could think with a limited amount of people buying those supplies, a company like Boeing, they have the purchasing power, and especially globally, they can kind of point, click, and buy something cheaper than many of these companies. Even you can think of their leading competitors as well. For buyers, I put up and down there. For instance, pre-pandemic, those contracts they would go after, of course, Delta Airlines, United, American. They had the power. They had the airline. They had the fleet. They manufactured the fleets from beginning to end. So they had the power. So the prices they were asking for, especially in larger jets, they were commanding a premium price. And only, as you could imagine, only Airbus and Boeing could command that price. So they really had the power. And of course, these commercial airliners wanted to diversify their fleet. So they didn't want to have too many Airbuses. They didn't want to have too many Boeing flights. So you could only imagine what would happen when they said, okay, well, we need to give 50% of our business to Boeing. They had the negotiating power with the buyers. Unfortunately, now for Boeing, this has flipped. The power is now resting in the hands of the airliners. The airliners are making cutbacks every day with flights, and now they're picking and choosing the contracts that they're giving out. It's no secret as well. They have pulled many contracts away from Boeing to say, hey, we were looking at creating this, we were looking at selling you all 20, 30, 40 airliners in 2020 in this airport. Well, what's going on? These Deltas, these big four, these commercial airliners are pulling those flights to say, hey, we don't need that fleet. The customers aren't there, so therefore we're not executing this contract. So they have the power now. So that's why I said that could go both ways. From a substitute, that could go both ways laterally as well. As you look at the substitutes, what could you do? You could substitute a flight for a plane ride, a car ride, a bus ride, a train, or if you're going internationally, you could substitute that for a boat. Now, I probably wouldn't recommend sailing to Australia if you're going on an Australian vacation versus just taking a Boeing flight. But there are substitutes to get you there. As you look at the competitive landscape, that really boils down to a couple of key competitors. And the main one there, you have Embraer, you have Bombardier, and you have Airbus, which is their contributing, kind of their lead competitor right there that kind of duke it out for the top of share in the landscape of the commercial airliners. Also, as you go to the parts and services side, you have GE Aviation. GE doesn't have any planes, doesn't have a fleet, but they do compete. With making the parts for these planes. So when your plane needs a replacement part, Boeing has those parts, or you have a GE. You could pick up the phone, call, and GE manufactures those parts as well. So as you look at the internal analysis for Boeing. So as you look at their product strategy, basically, Boeing brings the most attractive line of commercial airplanes in the market. It's no secret. Boeing has some of the best, the biggest, the most comfortable, that we like to say, or they used to say, the safest planes in a fleet. So their product strategy was saying, we're going to have the most modern, we're going to have the most, we're going to have the best fleet in air, and we're going to have the best technology-based fleet as well, with all the bells and whistles that pilots and commercial airliners, for safety reasons, would like to use. For pricing strategy, basically Boeing was striving hard to achieve economics of scale from its procurement, design to manufacture. Pricing strategy, Boeing is everywhere, which feeds right into the distribution strategy. Boeing has global warehouses all over. So what Boeing's goal is with those global warehouses, they want to have up-to-minute inventory information, and they want to have that ready and available for every Boeing plane that's operating domestically and globally. If you need a part, Boeing's strategy is, we have a hub, we have resources close to this airport. You should be able to retrieve a Boeing part no matter what part of the world you're in. The next piece is the promotion strategy. Pretty much the advertising campaign is to really close the gap. When you see Boeing now, they're really talking about aerospace as a whole. So they're no longer just saying, hey, we're a defense company, we're a commercial company. They're talking about aerospace because they're closing the big gap that SpaceX beat them out in the government grant for space. So Boeing still wants to be a part of that. They're not known for that, but Boeing wants to expand over into that market. So their promotion strategy is really online. If you even go to their site, they're advertising how they want to be in space. So that is kind of what they're doing from the 4P standpoint. Next, pretty much the resources and capabilities. As you see, a couple of things. You have, engineering, modifications and maintenance, supply chain, training and professional services, digital solution analytics, and 24-hour customer support. So pretty much they have R&D that's just so far advanced in mechanical, aerodynamics, hydraulic, and electronics designs. So their resources are unmatched. When Boeing usually comes calling, they usually grab some of the best and brightest people they have working for them in around the company, even their contractors. They go through an extenuating process selecting these contractors because they want the best, they want the brightest, and they want the most innovative teams to come in and bring new, fresh ideas, while of course staying steady in the current market. In terms of the Porter's value chain, pretty much we mentioned before, Boeing has an advanced supply chain group that has more than 1,000 suppliers. And so they have very different parts and subsystems for a complicated aircraft. You can only imagine when you're sitting on the tarmac, right? And they're saying, hey, we have delays. And there's a buzzer going off in the cockpit. And of course, all we're thinking is, hey, we're just trying to get home, or we're trying to get to our business meeting. We don't recognize how many parts are making up this aircraft and what that buzzer could be going off. What is that sensor showing the cockpit or showing the airline company? Well, what Boeing is saying, hey, in our supply chain, like I said before, we're going to have every part you need to you where they can bring that out to the tarmac. So there's nothing that a Boeing aircraft is going to need when you're sitting on that tarmac that they can say, hey, we don't have this and we're going to have to order it and it's going to take 48 hours. It's just not going to happen in the world of Boeing. Pretty much also Boeing's very unique with 24/7 customer service, and they have world-class support anywhere, anytime. Boeing guarantees that if we can't fix this over the phone, so imagine we call in and, we get people from cable companies, we get people from, air conditioner units that have an expert on the phone right then and there in the middle of the night. But imagine Boeing having world-class engineers and just the heads of their fields sitting there in the middle of the night waiting for that phone call to come through to say, hey, we have a plane that we're getting a sensor, or we're having an error, or we need a part in a service. Boeing is known for their world-class, basically their customer support and their customer service team, and it's all connected in the world of Boeing. So as we jump into our competitive analysis, as you see here on the screen, these are the top 3 competitors that Boeing fights on a daily basis. The top left is Airbus. If you're not, I would say, hey, if you look on a commercial flight, half the time, I would say probably 80% of the time, you're either on a Boeing flight or an Airbus flight. And if you're on a smaller plane, you're probably on an Embraer or a Bombardier Air. So there's different kinds of players that they have. As you can see in Bombardier, they really toy with these smaller jets, and they have found their niche to say, hey, we're not even going for the international plane that can just howl from here to Paris.